I hear you because I've got the same. I built the first 5,000 of my connections and followers are all related to the beauty and chemicals industry who are not interested in knowing about LinkedIn company pages for the most part. And I always get bombarded with them at the top of the list. And I just want to say, look, exclude this person. I have deliberately chosen that I don't want to invite them, just make them go off the list. The whole not being able to invite followers is very annoying, especially now creator mode makes you have a follow first button. For me personally, I found that really hard. I don't want to go through and connect with people, but I know they'd be interested in the page if I invited them. And the other thing is, with followers, you can't invite them to LinkedIn events. You can't invite them to LinkedIn audio rooms and LinkedIn lives, for instance. And there's lots of different ways that you can't use followers on the page. And you can't even, how crazy is this? You can't invite your company page followers to your company page LinkedIn audios or LinkedIn lives. It is crazy. You have to be a first degree connection of the page administrator to be able to invite them. There is no way that you can invite your page followers unless you're connected to them, which you, as a page admin, may or may not want to be, depending who's running the page. You could have a third party doing it for you. No problems with that, completely within the guidelines. For the pages I manage for my clients, I don't want to go and invite my connections to their event. I want their page followers to come to their event. So this is why it's a little bit crazy. I'm not going to say that pages have a long way to go. And realistically, they've only been getting some love from LinkedIn in the last 2 years since they've got record ad revenue coming in. I think we'll start to see even more come through, but it's just crazy, some of these little idiosyncrasies that we come across. But ultimately, they're investing in pages, they're investing in brands, getting involved in conversations. You've only got to have a look at how many ads on the platform are about B2B brilliance. It's the next 10 years are dedicated to B2B. We'll start to see that. It's really the hot topic that I think we'll see in the platform this year.
Perfect. You recently rebranded one of your podcasts and you've got a book about branding. So are there any tips that you feel that you really want to make sure that you're sharing that could set people up well for the next few years?
You can learn from my mistakes is probably what I'm best to share because, as I said, I came from 20 years in sales. Branding, marketing, I thought was a waste of time. And it was all the salesperson that was the hero. No surprises in that conversation to anyone that's ever worked in sales or marketing for that fact. What I realized, my brand, I call it like the Frankenstein brand when I first started because it was, oh, I'll just pick this color. And the person who I decided my branding marketing was just getting some business cards done. And I let them pick fonts. I was like, I don't care. I'm paying you. I think there's a level of effort that if you do the work up front and do the work of who is your ideal audience, what do you want to be known for? And the more you can narrow those two things down, it pays off. Now, for me, the thing that has brought me unstuck is not asking for help early enough and assuming that I knew far more than what I did when it came to these other spaces, which weren't my expertise. But branding is powerful, hence why I wrote the LinkedIn branding book to share all of those lessons. There's a companion workbook that goes with it, Nola, that I did myself over Christmas to get myself aligned with where I want to be for 2023, because I've grown, I've changed, my business has evolved and grown, and I wanted to make sure that reflected it. LinkedIn for B2B Growth is a name change for my podcast, just reflects where I want to go for the next year, 2 years. And it makes more sense because my podcast, I didn't come up with, there was no target audience. There was no goal in mind. There was no anything. It was just, I'll interview some people that I really have some good chats and let people know, because all I wanted to work out was how the tech worked. And I didn't have a goal for it. I just, then my goal was get a podcast set up. That's as simple as it was. And now I realize people were probably coming to my podcast expecting me to talk about company pages because that's what they know and love me for. And then they'd come on and I'd be like, I'd have a guest that was talking about time management, or I'd have a guest that was talking about money mindset. And they'd be like, am I in the right place? And so this is where I've grown as a person. It wasn't that they were bad conversations. It was that I just wasn't in alignment. And this is what I'm trying to resolve this year. Lessons learned along the way, but having that clarity is just been a godsend. And now my business is growing. I'm up 50% so far this year. I think it will double by the end of my financial year, which is in June. And because I'm clear, and that is the superpower on LinkedIn, being known for one thing, having your audience in mind, and just having that clarity it's just where the power comes from.
No, and I think we rebranded right at the same time, because
Yes.
I got feedback from people that they had no idea what the Janus Oasis meant. And I realized that Alexa thinks Janus should be pronounced Janus. There's like dispute about how you pronounce it. And I renamed it to be the Hybrid Remote Center of Excellence, which then helps
Yeah.
me with my community team. And it's
Yeah.
a lot more clear and intentional.
Yeah, exactly. People now know when they come to my podcast that they should expect things that are related to LinkedIn and B2B growth.
Yeah.
And I can still have some conversations that aren't necessarily 100% LinkedIn, but it's tied into growth and B2B. And that helps with searches and things. But I'd never factored that in. I was just like, oh, good for business show. Good works with the good trading code. That was about as much thought that went into it. And I think I don't beat myself up. I was completely thrown in the deep end a couple of years ago because I'd never intended to have a business set up. As I shared, it was like a blow up one night that I quit on the spot. And then the next day I'm like, I'm not working for anyone else. And then off I went, and I'm learning along the way. But branding is just something that I wish I knew the power of earlier. And I know it now.
That's good. And podcasting is not as easy as it seems when you first start.
Oh
The
my God,
discovery
no.
is very interesting.
You think I'll have a guest and we'll have a chat and the guest will be fabulous and they'll help promote it. And then I'll be amazing and I'll know how to ask good questions. And then I realized that in the beginning, my questions were question and then waffle after it. The person was confused what the actual question was. There's lots of things that I've learned over time to refine that skill. But podcasting is a great opportunity to build a community again.